I never imagined that my career would start with me being used as a pawn. It was my first day at work. My department head instructed me to deliver a file to the boss, emphasizing that it was urgent and that I should go straight in. As a fresh face, unfamiliar with everything, I took him at his word. Clutching the file, I nervously pushed open the door to the CEO's office. The scene inside is forever etched in my memory. Our CEO, Miss Eleanor Vance, was sitting on her desk, a playful smile on her face as she tugged at a man's tie in a way that left little to the imagination. The utter mortification I felt was overwhelming. My mind went blank, and I stood frozen in the doorway. "Close the door." The harsh voice came from the man. I recognized him from the company directory. His name was Samuel Sterling, a highly regarded executive assistant. With a resounding thump, I slammed the door shut. A wave of panic washed over me, because in my haste, I'd locked myself inside the office. Silence descended. I was truly terrified. Even years later, the memory still makes my heart pound. I remember Samuel Sterling practically spitting out curses, ordering me to get out. Eleanor Vance, however, didn't say a word. That silence unsettled me even more. Leaving that office, the first thought I had was, I'm done for. I'm a recent graduate, and I'm passionate about new media marketing. This company, Blue Horizon, may not be the biggest, but it's a major player in the MCN, multi-channel network, world. I prepared extensively for the interview, and when I received the offer, it felt like winning the lottery. Eleanor Vance, our CEO, is a legendary figure, known in the industry as the Iron Lady for her shrewd and ruthless business tactics. Her personal life, however, is whispered about with disapproval. Rumor had it that she was a master manipulator when it came to relationships. Although unmarried, she was now caught red-handed by a lowly employee in a compromising situation. She definitely wouldn't take this lightly. My mind was racing. I barely made it back to my desk before my supervisor, Mr. Harrison Blake, summoned me for a dressing down. Harrison accused me of being careless. He claimed I was supposed to deliver the file to the conference room, not barging into the CEO's office. Another torrent of criticism washed over me, but he conveniently failed to mention where I should deliver it. That's how the workplace is. It's cruel. I had to endure it. I gritted my teeth, forced a smile, and promised to be more careful next time. I slunk back to my desk, dread filling me. I half expected a summons to HR, which would surely result in me being told to pack my things. But the morning passed without a termination notice. Instead, Harrison Blake assigned me a small project. It was simple, and most of the work had already been done. I just needed to oversee the final stages, and the results would be credited to me. Performance metrics are like a lifeline to a newbie like me. It seemed like Harrison wasn't so bad after all. Maybe I'd misjudged him. However, during lunch in the cafeteria, I overheard a juicy piece of gossip. Eleanor Vance and Harrison Blake were also involved. This shattered my perceptions. Calming myself, I pieced together the events of the morning. It dawned on me that Harrison Blake and Samuel Sterling were competing for Eleanor's attention, and I, the naive new recruit, had been used as a pawn in their power play. Damn it! The barbecue pork suddenly lost its flavor. I remembered a similar character in a television show I had watched previously, and their fate was never great. Maybe I should just leave now? Blue Horizon's environment was toxic. It was surprising how they could have made it to the top of their industry with the culture being the way it was. But I wasn't going to leave empty-handed. I'd wait until the end of the project, collect my bonus, and then make my escape. With that decision made, I felt a little lighter. But I never expected what happened that afternoon while I was out delivering documents. Riding my beloved motorbike along a street not far from the office, I saw a two-car collision. From a distance, I could see that the car that was rear-ended had a woman with long flowing hair sitting inside. Just as I was about to pass them, I heard a voice call out, "Oliver, stop." The voice was clear, pleasant, yet authoritative. I pulled over, watching as the woman who had called me gracefully stepped out of the back of the car. My jaw dropped in surprise. It was Eleanor Vance. Seeing her up close, she was even more striking than I'd realized. More beautiful than even the celebrity streamers Blue Horizon represented. Seeing me staring, she looked at me with a slight smile. I frantically shook my head to get rid of the thoughts that were running through my head. "Miss Vance, is there anything you need? I need to get to an emergency meeting. Can you give me a ride?" As she said that, she lifted her chin and stared at me with a pair of eyes that saw right through me. I automatically took my spare helmet off the bike and handed it to her. The next second, Eleanor Vance swung her long legs over the back of my motorcycle and grabbed my shirt. I remembered the scene I'd witnessed that morning, and I felt a strange sense of unease. Clearing my throat, I said, "Hold on tight, Miss Vance." Then I pulled away. Before I left, I noticed Samuel Sterling arriving to deal with the accident, but his gaze was fixed on me with a deep look. I knew he was looking at Eleanor Vance, and how strange it must have looked that the CEO of the company was on the back of an employee's motorcycle. To be honest, I was curious as well. Suddenly, I felt a warm breath on the back of my neck, and a sweet scent permeated the air. She seemed to have moved even closer. "Pay attention and drive carefully." "Yes, ma'am," I replied. I had to focus on the road in front of me, but the aroma was stuck in my nose. We soon arrived at the location. Eleanor Vance took off the helmet and threw it to me. "My assistant wasn't able to get here. Oliver, you'll have to fill in for now." She looked at me from the side of the road, as if daring me. There was no way I could pass up on the opportunity. Why did Eleanor Vance even know my name? And why was she acting so casually? Had she not been bothered by the events that had transpired this morning? Or was she setting a trap for me? I remained alert. For the rest of the day, I learned the true strength of Eleanor Vance. She was able to charm without falling behind, and she signed deals without hesitation. She knew exactly how to maneuver. I realized my caution was amusing. As things stood, I was not someone who would make her want to set a trap. I was disheartened. No wonder so many men were attracted to her. That day had felt like a roller coaster. Rushing back to the office, I dropped the file off just in time to keep Harrison Blake from yelling at me. That night, I was tossing around in my apartment. I had been exhausted from working all day, but I could not sleep. Eleanor Vance occupied my mind. Why was I so invested in her? A friend invited me out to a bar. I accepted the invitation. When I arrived, he had already ordered drinks. I saw the grimace on his face, so I knew he must have been arguing with his girlfriend. He talked about his relationship. I stared into my glass, and I saw a familiar face in the distance. There was no way I could be seeing things. From her seat on the couch, it was Eleanor Vance. She seemed to be waiting for someone. Soon, she went out onto the terrace with a man that was much taller than her. I did not know why, but I decided to follow them. As I approached the terrace, I heard a giggle. "Looking for me?" I realized that it was Eleanor, and she was smiling at me. Her clothes were different than they were at the office, and she seemed much happier. "I knew you were staring at me. What do you want?" "My friend wanted me to come here with him. I was worried that someone was trying to take advantage of you." She laughed. "So you're not calling me Miss Vance?" She winked. "I'm worried that someone's trying to take advantage of me." "Second? When was the first time?" She patted my shoulder. "Goodbye, little brother. Why did you call me that?" I complained. Eleanor accidentally tripped on the stairwell, and I caught her. She looked up, her eyes fixated on mine. I began to tremble. "Thank you, but don't tell anyone about this," she said. This was a side of Eleanor I had never seen before. "This will be our secret." And then she kissed me. She was gone. What did she mean by that? My friend was drunk when I got back. He wanted to know where I had disappeared to. If she's a demon, then she's the greatest demon. I initially thought Harrison Blake was helping me improve my skills by giving me extra work. As I walked by the break room, I heard a conversation between him and Samuel Sterling. Samuel mentioned my partnership with Eleanor on the company project. Harrison remained silent. Harrison had a look that I could not interpret. Samuel said, "Don't let him get in the way." "He is just an idiot," Harrison responded. "You and I have been fighting over Eleanor this whole time, but she seems to be closer to him than she is with us. I haven't even held her hand." Their steps grew closer. I hid. They left. I emerged. I was not sure what Samuel meant by that, but I knew that Harrison was using me for something. I wanted my bonus, so I decided to keep my head down until then. Then, I was asked to do another assignment. I was in charge of finding merchants for the company to partner with. It was hard work, but I was determined to excel. Harrison kept looking at me. I knew that he wanted to get rid of me, but I would not let him. I studied business. Thinking of Eleanor, I worked harder. Eventually, I collapsed from exhaustion in front of the office. I saw her. When I woke up, I was in a hospital. I was told that I was overworked, but I would be okay. I wanted to know who had brought me there, but I was told that they did not know. I wanted to stay so that I could see Eleanor. There was a knock at the door. I looked up. Eleanor was there. What is wrong? She looked tired. I saw you passed out in front of the building. I was going to bring you to the hospital, but Samuel wanted to go instead. Did she care for me? No. I was determined to stand up to them on my own. Eleanor wanted to talk, but my phone kept ringing. Eleanor took my phone. I was shocked. She had a serious look on her face. I did not know that Blue Horizon needed you to work so hard. Rest. I suddenly felt alone. I spoke to my friend about it, and he was envious. That night, I learned some shocking information. Samuel had been transferred to the talent department. Harrison was being penalized. Was Eleanor doing this for me? 2 days later, Harrison told me that I would be working somewhere else. I was brought to Eleanor's office. She was looking over documents. Oliver, you will be my personal assistant. Please get down, I said to her. I am not showing anything. I'm just that type of person. What did she mean by that? She jumped down. I will be attending an event for the university. I need you to help me set up some things. Why did she know about my school? I knew that Eleanor was a donor to the university. At the celebration, Eleanor looked like a student. When I first saw her, I was speechless. I ran into some old friends. When I turned back, Eleanor was not there. I found her in the garden with another man. The man had wrapped his coat around her. She was speaking to him. I recognized him as the man at the bar. He was waiting for her. The moment had passed. They were not special to her. Neither was I. I closed my eyes. It was all a fantasy. I wandered aimlessly, surrounded by groups of laughing, cheerful students. I felt as though I was trapped in a vacuum, numb to everything. Unconsciously, I found myself at the university's history museum. I heard a group of girls chattering nearby. I knew their location. My photo was there. I had checked it out earlier that afternoon, when I saw that I had been placed as an exemplary student. Oliver Cole is so handsome. I can't believe there was a guy like that at this school. It's too bad he already graduated. More than his looks, his story is amazing. His family had an accident while he was in college, and he refused any assistance, insisting on earning his own tuition. Didn't you hear? Miss Eleanor Vance from Blue Horizon was about to shake his hand on stage, but he refused. Oh, Blue Horizon wasn't called Blue Horizon back then. It was Blue Cube. If he'd known Blue Horizon would become so successful, I wonder if he would regret it. I looked up in disbelief. So, the person I had refused help from all those years ago was Eleanor Vance. After graduating high school, my parents were in a car accident. The driver fled the scene, and I spent all of our savings trying to save them, but it wasn't enough. I then received my acceptance letter to university. I wasn't planning on attending, but I gritted my teeth and enrolled. The school, aware of my situation, informed me that a benefactor was willing to sponsor me. However, I backed out at the last minute. I wanted to earn my own rewards. I didn't want to owe anyone. So, on stage, I refused my benefactor without even looking up. Blue Cube, Blue Horizon. How could I have forgotten? I suddenly remembered Eleanor Vance saying that we had met before, but I didn't think much of it because, in my mind, this was our first meeting. She had remembered me. That's why she had been so caring. She wanted to make up for not helping the boy who had lost his parents all those years ago. I had mistaken that for romantic feelings. I chuckled bitterly. That's just the kind of person Eleanor Vance is. Her character and capabilities are beyond question. But what I wanted was far more than that. Oliver, what are you doing here? I've been looking everywhere for you. A sharp voice called out, and I turned to see Eleanor Vance rushing toward me. The man was no longer with her, but I couldn't shake the image of him from my mind. elegant and charming. I had to admit, Eleanor Vance belonged with someone like him. But I wasn't going to give up. I wouldn't be satisfied with just walking away. If I continued to hide under Eleanor Vance's protection, I would never become the kind of man who could stand beside her. She would always take care of me, never seeing me as an equal. At that moment, I was absolutely certain. I couldn't stay at Blue Horizon. Straightening my shoulders, I looked at the anxious Eleanor Vance. "Miss Vance, I've made up my mind. I'm quitting." Eleanor Vance pursed her lips and looked at me, but I caught a hint of sadness in her eyes. "Give me a reason." She was looking right through me. I couldn't meet her gaze. All I said was, "Blue Horizon isn't the right fit for me." Then, I left. I practically ran away. A few days later, I received my final paycheck and bonus from Blue Horizon, a sizable sum. Eleanor Vance didn't say another word to me, but I had already made a plan. Using my experience, I began reaching out to local businesses, established companies with high-quality products that hadn't kept up with modern marketing trends and were on the verge of bankruptcy. In our city, known for its manufacturing, there were countless such companies. However, contacting them wasn't enough. I also needed professional streamers to promote their products. I visited the streamer district, tirelessly negotiating deals with each one. Becoming a middleman, I sold my parents' house, the house I couldn't bring myself to sell even in my darkest moments, and started a company. My efforts finally paid off. 6 months later, my company was thriving, and the business development team had presented a plan to partner with major MCN agencies. I felt a jolt and opened my phone, looking at the name at the top of my contact list. I had been looking at her name for a while. For what felt like forever, I had wanted to be closer to her, and I was looking at my phone for the strength that I needed. Finally, I was going to see her again. The next time I saw Eleanor Vance was at a business gala, an event attended by many company executives, myself included. I spotted her almost immediately upon entering. Eleanor Vance was the kind of woman who commands attention no matter where she is. I had been secretly following her updates, but there was no news of any romance. I watched as various executives approached to toast her. She was elegant and carefree, but she didn't refuse anyone. I could see her face was getting flushed. A slow anger was rising inside me. Where was that man? Why wasn't he here when it mattered? Eleanor Vance seemed to be struggling. After a moment's hesitation, I walked over, put my arm around her waist, and blocked the next drink. The others initially looked confused before understanding dawned. "So, Mr. Cole and Miss Vance are?" No wonder. Eleanor Vance didn't look at me, nor did she say a word. I didn't offer an explanation either, keeping my arm around her. "The event is winding down. I'll take you home." She leaned into me, and my heart melted at the sight of her. But as soon as I guided her to the parking area, she pushed me away, turning her head and remaining silent. "Where do you live?" "I'll take you home," I sighed. It was only natural for Eleanor Vance to be upset, considering how abruptly I had left. I had failed to live up to her trust. When she didn't respond, I repeated the question. She finally turned to face me, her eyes bright and impossibly beautiful. "I don't want to go home. I want to drink." Eleanor Vance's gaze was unfocused, like a lost fawn. I didn't push her. Instead, I took her back to my place where I gave her some wine, even though I shouldn't have. She sat on the floor, drinking glass after glass. I watched her, feeling a headache coming on. "It's cold on the floor. Come sit on the couch." I reached out to help her up, but she pulled me down. Leaning over Eleanor Vance, I watched her eyelashes flutter. She suddenly reached out and touched my face. "Oliver." "Yes?" "You're such an idiot." I was speechless, unable to tear my gaze away from her as I saw the tears welling up in her eyes. Her hand left my face and covered her eyes, as if she didn't want me to see her crying. "I know why you left. I didn't care about those things, but you did, so I didn't stop you. Can you come back now?" Her voice was trembling slightly, filled with a sense of injustice. "Can you come back?" I suddenly understood what Eleanor Vance was saying. First came disbelief, then overwhelming joy. I couldn't help but hug her tightly. I had thought this was just a one-sided love, but it turned out she felt the same way. After circling around for so long, I was finally back by her side. After taking a shower, Eleanor Vance nestled in my arms. Who was that man? The really tall one? That's my brother. He's overly protective of me and refuses to listen. What about when I first joined the company and saw you and Samuel in the office? He was training the newbies. I was showing them how to pose. Why would I kiss him? What about those rumors? Eleanor Vance completely exploded, biting me hard on the shoulder. I have no idea where those came from. Did you believe them? I quickly denied it and pulled the blanket over her. I asked her one last question. Did you recognize me right away? Eleanor Vance rolled her eyes. I approved your resume. At first, I wanted to mentor you, but then I met you, and I just wanted to make sure you weren't working so hard. She trailed off, burying herself under the covers. But I had heard enough. Holding her close, I said, I'm not leaving again. I was no longer the helpless newbie. Now, I was qualified to stand alongside her, able to shield her from the storm. The next day, I was awakened by knocking at the door. A female voice was calling, Oliver Cole, open up. Eleanor Vance's expression immediately changed. She scrambled out of my arms and started getting dressed. I was at a loss for words. I quickly explained, that's my cousin. She got into college here and wanted to come early to experience the city. I had no idea she would come today. She must be on break. My cousin had mentioned it before, but I had been so busy I had forgotten all about it. Eleanor Vance's expression relaxed. Once she was ready, I opened the door. My cousin, waiting outside, immediately pushed her suitcase at me and strolled inside. I'm exhausted. You didn't even come to pick me up? Mr. Big Shot is so busy. Then she saw Eleanor Vance, wearing my shirt. My cousin looked shocked. You're wearing my cousin's clothes. What's going on between you two? I watched as Eleanor Vance's face turned bright red. It was amusing how someone who spoke with such composure on stage could blush over a simple question. I walked over, wrapped my arm around her waist, and turned to my cousin. This is your sister-in-law. I whispered in Eleanor Vance's ear, I don't have much family. Let me introduce you to one. She gave me a playful look, but couldn't help smiling. My cousin's eyes widened in understanding. No wonder you took so long to open the door. Worried that Eleanor Vance would turn as red as a cooked lobster, I quickly led my cousin to her bedroom to introduce her. After making some money, I had bought the house back. To me, it was more than just a building. It was a place that held our family's memories. Selling the house had been a do-or-die move, and thankfully, it had all worked out. I was explaining the rules to my cousin when she pulled out her phone to browse the internet. Suddenly, I saw a look of shock on her face as she handed me her phone. Oliver, doesn't this person look like sister-in-law? I looked at her phone and saw a short video featuring multiple shots of Eleanor Vance from various angles. It was clear they had been taken secretly, and the caption was malicious. Shocking. The truth about the prominent businesswoman? I spoke with my cousin before leaving and went to Eleanor. I immediately saw her next to the bed. I had to go to her. I slowly approached. Do you know who did this? I asked. Eleanor had nodded and showed me the text message. The message was from Harrison. Harrison's obsession with Eleanor had caused the problems he was having, and he had been fired by Eleanor. He had been harassing her, but she was surprised that he would attack her. Harrison's actions were not intended to hurt her, but hurt Blue Horizon as well. Blue Horizon cared a lot about its reputation, and its business model consisted of the image it held. The blow could be fatal. I helped Eleanor report it to the police and contacted our lawyer to issue a statement. The police were unable to find Harrison. My old colleague mentioned that he was friends with the bartender at the bar and that Harrison frequented it. I rushed to the location. I had just been testing the waters, but it had worked. Harrison was there. I was not sure what had been going on with him, but his appearance was disheveled. He ran away as soon as he saw me. He threw bottles onto the floor. Glass shards were everywhere. I did not care. I could not feel anything. Harrison had not expected that I was willing to put my life on the line, and I caught him. I pressed Harrison to the ground. He smiled. I was scared. I might die. All of a sudden, I heard a crash. Eleanor had hit Harrison over the head with a bottle. She was scared. I am such an idiot. She was scared. She told me to be more careful. Then, she examined my body. It was a funny moment for me. The police came and took Harrison away. He was charged with false accusations. Eventually, this was forgotten. Though I had avoided a fatal blow, I had small injuries. I was in a body cast. Every time Eleanor saw me, she started to tear up. My cousin tried to comfort her, but she could not. As soon as I was cleared to leave the hospital, my cousin had prepared everything at the house. How do I look? I had asked. Brother, no one is better looking than you. Eleanor's brother did not want her to marry me, but he had helped with the arrangements. You've always protected my sister, he said. Eleanor returned home. The lights dimmed. I kneeled before her. She gasped. I don't believe in destiny, but you changed that. You brought light to my life. I took out a ring. Will you marry me? I saw her nodding. There were cheers, but I did not care. All that I could feel was Eleanor. The beating of our hearts together.